White starts his game by playing king pawn e2 to e4, and black starts by playing his king pawn e7 to e5. White plays his king bishop at f1 to c4, and black plays his king knight at g8 to f6. White plays his queen pawn d2 to d3 and supports his king pawn at e4, and black plays his king bishop at f8 to e7. White plays his king bishop pawn at f2 to f4 and attacks black's king pawn at e5, and black plays his king pawn at e5, captures this attacking pawn f4. White moves forward his king pawn at e4 to e5 and attacks black's knight at f6, and black plays his knight at f6 back to his original place at g8, as no safe working square available for him. White captures f4 pawn with his queen bishop at c1, and black moves his d7 pawn to d6 and attacks e5 pawn. White knight at b1 is developed to c3, and black captures e5 pawn with his pawn at d6. White moves his queen at d1 to h5 and double attacks the f7 pawn with his bishop at c4, and black defends his f7 pawn by moving his g7 pawn to g6. White captures e5 pawn with his queen at h5 and attacks rook h8, and black defends his rook h8 by moving his king knight at g8 to f6 square, supported by his bishop at e7. White moves his knight at c3 to d5 and triple attacks the c7 pawn, and black develops his queen knight to d7 and attacks the white queen at e5. White knight at d5 captures the c7 pawn and gives check to black king at e8, and black king moves to f8 to save the check. White plays his black diagonal bishop at f4 to h6 to give check to black king at f8, and black king moves from f8 to g8. White captures the f7 pawn with his white diagonal bishop at c4 and gives check to black king at g8, and black king recaptures this unprotected f7 bishop with his king. White checkmates the black king at f7 by moving his queen from e5 to e6, supported by c7 knight.